Okay, this is the Kool Kitchen, Ola's Kool Kitchen, and I'm really lucky to be speaking to Loft, one of the first bands on the Creation record label, and we have Andy Strickland, Dave Morgan, and Peter Astor here. And I'm so excited to speak to you guys. Let's start off with the beginning of the band, because you guys were originally going to call yourselves the Living Room.
That's right.
Is that right? And you were gonna, but it actually kind of takes you to where you get your record deal, because Alan McGee had a.
We were very happy to be called the Living Room. We thought it was quite a good name, and then we went to the club the first night and thought, what a fantastic. Basically, the kind of band that we were, we couldn't get any shows in all the sort of circuit places. Even if we did try, it just wasn't the thing that anybody wanted. Which sounds weird, but it wasn't. Nobody was remotely interested. You couldn't get a gig at the Rock Garden or places like that. Anyway, so we went to this place. Thought, this is brilliant. This is totally for us. Oh shit! It's called the Living Room, and we're called the Living Room. It's just a stupid coincidence. And then so I asked to get a show, and then we just had to change names. So we moved upstairs. That's how we did it. We thought we need to think of a new name. What about the
And
Loft?
you went with the Loft, kind of sticking with that kind of.
Yeah.
So
I think Alan said you can have a gig, but you can't be called the same thing as the club. So come up with another name, you can have a gig.
And this is 1984.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, but when I looked at the length of the band, it seemed to be the original beginning was like from 84 to the split was like 86.
85.
85.
So, the gig would have been right at the end of 83 or very early 84.
Yeah.
And
so Neil Taylor's writing about the stuff, which is the sleeve notes, possibly to this record. Are just absolutely spot on. I mean, he's just he can remember way more than he's so good on the dates. Do you know what I mean? So I'm just saying, if you want to check any of the dates, just look on Neil Taylor's stuff, because it's completely right.
Okay.
You can probably get that from Cherry Red somewhere.
Yeah, and I found we've got a bit of an archive of our own, and I found not long ago an old typed biog that we'd done, which mentioned the fact that we played with people like Ut and things that I'd completely forgotten.
What? Oh my God! Yeah.
So, which I think was our first gig at the Living Room. And
right. Yeah.
So I sent all that over to Cherry Red. So, like you say, Neil was sort of saying, I think I've got it all nailed. But if anybody's got anything extra,
right. Yeah.
So, what was it like meeting Alan McGee? And that it was. I mean, he's the guy who basically put you on Creation Records as well. So.
Well, I was in a band with Dave Evans, and I knew Alan McGee in 81. I played like the Communication Club with the Go-Betweens and stuff.
Oh, you were the go. Oh.
Yeah. And then it was like, it didn't work. Communication Club was 50 people, 20 people, rubbish. So, oh yeah, I'm being recorded. I forgot about that. Yeah, so it was Communication Club. Didn't work very well, and then he changed it into the Living Room. After that, moved to the Adam's Arms, and it went ballistic.
I think Alan was just sort of enthusiastic, and as Pete said, there wasn't anywhere else for people like us to play, because there was a circuit, but it was all sewn up with managers and agents, and we were a million miles. We've never had an agent or a manager, even now. And so to find that there was a club where there were some people like us, and there was some, they were putting on bands like the TV Personalities and the Nightingales, and bands that we liked anyway. So it was just, Alan was just the guy that ran the club and was just over enthusiastic about everything he did, which was great.
The thing I remember really clearly was when I remember when he first offered us the show, because his accent was very, very thick in those. I knew lots and lots and lots of Scottish people. I had no problem understanding people from Scotland, but I remember he just said this thing, and I was like. And then I was like, I think he's offered us a show, but I'm not absolutely certain. We're going to have to go back and ask him again. Honestly, it's true.
This was in London, was it?
It was at the Adam's Arms in Fitzrovia.
Not far from here.
Not far from here, no.
Yeah, it was like one room above a pub that you could fit about 40 people into, comfortably without fire regulations getting in the way. They did a tiny little vocal PA, and you'd just turn up and. Some people would bring some gear, and you'd argue about who was going to share what, and we just got on with it.
I mean, it was one other thing about what I remember quite clearly about, and I got the name wrong. I think Neil corrected me. Was it Shuffles Folk Club? It was Shuffles Folk Club. I mean, I thought it was called Bongo's Folk Club. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? But the thing that I remember is the club night it was a folk club, and there was all these folk albums stuck to the wall and candles on all the tables because it was so full. The candles thing really wasn't going to work. Do you know what I mean? It was and it was just a complete sort of maelstrom. It was a really hot. It was August night. Again, this is where we may have got it totally wrong. I'm sure it was. It was. I know this again because somebody's told us backstory. That's when it was. It was a very hot night. It was October, there's August, and it was Shuffles Folk Club. I think that's right. The same with all the folk albums, and then it's quite. And there's actually one little bit of archive which is really funny that somebody else found, because it's weird people finding all this stuff. It's a picture of me looking at the Nightingales very early on. It's a photo from behind there was no stage. There was no stage. It was just the floor. So it was like from the floor at the back, and I'm just sitting there looking at Rob Lloyd going, I love you, you're so good. But it's really clearly like, and then we would be playing before or after.
No, that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
Support each other.
So, a lot of the times Alan didn't listen to the music. People would give them stuff, and they would just say, and I've heard that a lot of times maybe later on in the creation, the people would just say, check this out. He wouldn't listen to anything that came. He just kind of. We went more by recommendations of friends.
Probably later when he was getting along.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. I just what was his reaction to you and your music and your connection with that?
We gave him a tape. The first tape we gave him, he didn't like it. We had this great Sid Barrett song called The Day Lies Like a Lion, I remember, and it was like, we were like, this is great, this is really interesting, and it was like, and he was like, I'll give you a gig anyway. But I don't like the songs.
Don't play that one.
And it was great. But there was a good thing with McGee that I always really liked. That when we did Wide as the Rain and we played the rehearsal, we were like, that's pretty good. And I always remember us all saying, I bet when we play it at the living room, he's going to go, that's the one, that's the single. And sure enough, he did. And it was a really nice sort of synergy, maybe it's a bit wanky word, but it was a thing where we kind of knew it was good. But we also kind of knew that we were kind of laughing about it, but actually we knew that he would know it was good. And he did, and it was like, and that was the single. And we didn't have to go, what's the single? It was just like, so that was a nice thing. So that was just sort of a nice, vibey kind of thing,
Yeah. And to get asked to make a record was just amazing for us,
Yeah.
That's kind of what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And that was probably our only route that was open to us, because they'd made 3 or 4 records by then. So we weren't quite sure how it happened, but we knew that Alan was making records. So I think one night at the living room, we just said, perhaps you should make a single, and that was that. So.
Yeah, it was absolutely our only route. It wasn't in industry terms. It wasn't like we had a plan or anything like that. We were just like, he wants to do a record.
You're doing something. You're doing something creative, and he got it.
Yeah.
I think you and I went to see Jeff Travis once with a cassette, and he played it. And I remember being in his little office in the old Rough Trade building, and he sort of said, "Come back in a year's time" or something.
But it was amazing. We went to Blenheim Crescent, and he sat there, listened to the whole fucking tape, and went, I like it. I don't like it that much, but I think it could go some. Could you come back in a year? And that was like, but we were no one. We just knocked on the door and said, "Can we see Jeff Travis?" He went, "Yes," and we but it's very sweet. It's very nice.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it was the whole thing. It just reminded me of one other thing about making the record, which is maybe relevant. I don't know, was the thing about us doing a record, and all we wanted to do was do a record, and that thing about folding the sleeves. Do you remember that?
I just watched a movie called Good Vibrations. I don't know if you've seen it, and they're folding the sleeves.
Yeah, that's exactly what creation was like.
Yeah.
I just watched
Gillespie folding the sleeves.
But the thing was, we did it, and we were like, he went, "Can you come around and fold some sleeves?" And we were like, "No, we fucking can't. We're rock stars now. We've got a single out on Creation Records. We're not folding sleeves." We didn't really get it, but it was quite sweet because we were like, we were very amenable, but we're not folding sleeves. That's ruined the dream. The dream is ruined. We're not staying up all night and folding sleeves.
I think I did sneak around and fold some.
I wouldn't fold sleeves. It was far too much for me. I couldn't do that. It was a.
I probably convinced myself that was a deal breaker.
Oh, that's really, really sweet, though. Because I was watching the Good Vibrations.
Yes, good film.
It was a really good film about the Northern Ireland version of Creation Records, basically. It's that punk. But So if you were going to say something really good about Alan McGee and something that wasn't so good about Alan McGee, just like your favorite point and your least favorite point, what would you say about him? What was good, and what was something that could have been improved, shall we say?
I don't want to be good news Bible, but I've got no argument with him, full stop. I thought he was kind of like, he probably talked an awful lot of crap in the 1990s, and he would be the first to admit it. But he was business-wise 100% straight and honest. It was a licensed, it was a handshake deal, which still remains to this day. There was no, he was business-wise completely straight. He was just. I personally have no. There was nothing off about him at all. Obviously he became consumed with his own mythology. For a time in the 1990s, which is kind of pretty obvious. But I just don't. There wasn't anything where, I don't know. His shoes got better off at the beginning, but other than that, I wasn't too keen on his shoes at the very beginning.
He was a bit scruffy. When he worked on the railway, he was a bit scruffy.
Yeah, was this at the time I heard he was like a tube. Was working on this, and this was when he was running the club. He was doing the.
We never had the meeting with him in his railway app. I was reading some of the books. I think it was a Mary Chain. Somebody had a meeting with him, and he was in his lunch break in his railway uniform, which is just fantastic. We weren't privileged to the railway uniform, unfortunately.
And what are your feelings about creation for giving you that break and that, just your feelings about them doing it at the time?
Well, it was like we said just now, it was really our only route to playing gigs and making a record. We didn't realise that creation was going to turn into this legendary label, obviously, because when you're there and you're doing it, you've got no concept of that happening. It was just people in London at the time.
It's just upstairs of a pub. It's a small little scuzzy thing. It's not a big operation. It's just like playing music because we love music. We all support each other.
But obviously it's great that it is what it became, and and that we still get people talk, like you coming to talk to us today. People are still interested, and it's great. It's
because I saw the single. I watched the single on YouTube. Why Does the Rain?
Yeah.
And I watched it and went, oh, that's brilliant. Where are these guys? Why didn't they do... there is an album. I believe there was a 89 compilation album, Once Around the Fair.
Once Around the Fair, yeah. That's everything we've done, pretty much, with singles and outtakes and stuff and sessions. But there wasn't a Loft album. There should have been a Loft album.
There wasn't. There was only a couple. And then I saw a little TV appearance. I don't know where it was. They didn't say where it was.
Oxford
Roadshow.
Was that up the hill and down the slope and it's the TV? That's what it was. But they didn't. For some reason, they didn't say what the
it was a BBC show. It was like a slightly cooler, and only slightly cooler version of Top of the Pops.
Yeah.
And they had bands sort of helping introduce the thing, and we were on with. That was classic 80s, so we were on with Bronski Beat and the
China Crisis,
China Crisis.
When it was live, though, and I always remember one of McGee's great... he didn't mean anything about it, he was going, the thing is, Pete, it's only 1.5 million people watching it. I was like, thanks for telling me that, and it's live. So it was that 80s TV pop thing where it was 1.5 million people, which okay. That's all right then,
It's great. It's a great performance, and it's such another great song. I went, wow, these guys are really.
Yeah, it was a great record. I heard it on the radio about a month ago for the first time for ages, and it sounds great, particularly on the radio for some reason. It really punches out, doesn't it?
Yeah, John Rivers, fantastic producer.
Yeah. John Rivers, who did Ghost Town for the specials, produced it in Leamington Spa on a very cold February weekend. And we were because we were the first creation band on TV, so that helped get the whole thing going.
Okay, so that's your claim to fame. You're the first creation band on TV. Okay.
Yeah.
So that made a bit of a splash, and people started to think, oh, okay, this label. Oh, it's that label. What else is going on? And that was exactly the time that the Mary Chain came through as well.
Ah, okay. So you kind of burst the.
We burst through.
We burst through,
let others through, and then we disappeared.
So I have to ask, and if you don't want to answer, that's fine, but you guys broke up on stage in Hammersmith, is that correct? May I ask what happened? What led to the circumstances to this? Because you guys were so good. It's really. I was like, wow.
There's lots of different. I mean, interestingly, Andy, you sent us an email around the 30th of June.
The 24th of June, so a few days ago, was the 30th anniversary. Yeah.
Of that date.
Of that night.
That fateful night, which is mad. Yeah. So that's like it was. For me, it was like we had issues, as they say these days. We had issues, and basically being British and male and a stupid cunt, basically, I didn't actually express any of those things and actually deal with any of them. I think we're all as guilty of that. And do I need to say that in a way that's not swearing? I don't know. We it's that
boys
thing of
don't
holding
cry,
it all.
boys don't
yeah,
talk.
so it's all that stuff. So it kind of exploded in a really stupid way and a very unhelpful way. Because
you're on stage.
We needed Metallica. We needed our band therapist like Metallica got, and we needed to talk to each other. I mean, seriously, we did so, and we didn't. Yeah. And it was just like just boys mumbling around and then not doing anything. And certainly myself, but I mean, I think all of us were guilty.
We were such a sort of little self-contained unit, and it sounds mad because we were on tour. That gig was part of the tour with Terry Hall's band, the Colourfield, and. We didn't have a manager, as I said earlier. We didn't have a roadie. We didn't have a sound man. We didn't have a drive. Nobody even to drive our car. So it was literally just the four of us. Everything we did. We got radio sessions. We got on TV. There wasn't anyone doing it for us. It was just us.
Yeah.
And I think if we'd had one or two other people around us who would have been able to say, go and have a punch up, then. Don't see each other for a couple of weeks and then come back and get on with it because you've got an opportunity here. We didn't have anyone to do that, so
you're really young. Like, how old were you guys?
We weren't that young. We were early 20s.
I was 21.
Yeah, I was 24, 24.
Yeah, we weren't babies.
We were old enough to know better.
But it was all a bit. Hold it all in.
You rolled it in,
and then bang, out
and
it
then
came.
on stage. Wow, is it the Hammersmith gig?
Yeah.
Hammersmith Palais.
Hammersmith Palais.
Yeah. And Pete stormed off up the back of the stage like Sid Vicious in the My Way video.
Well, he did have a spiral staircase. Yeah. It was a spiral staircase.
At least it looked good. Yeah.
Well, I wish somebody had filmed it.
So it's nice that well, more than nice, it's important that we can talk now and we can talk about it and we're not still, the world of pop is full of people who really, really cannot sort stuff out at all. Do you know what I mean? And it's
true.
and it's really nice to be able to actually have kind of been open enough about it to actually get through it.
It's a typical story. Brands break through, band goes on tour, band nearly kills each other. Usually they're very young, and it happens way too fast, too soon, or whatever. But whatever level of it is, it's always kind of this is not unusual. This is actually the norm.
I remember the one and only time I ever sat down with a music lawyer to look at a contract. He said to me, "This is post Loft," and he said to me, "Right, what are you going to do when the band splits up?" And I said, "What? We're just about to record it." And he said, "This is important. This is the most important bit, because it will happen." And I thought, "Oh my God, you predicted it." Absolutely right. Of course it will. When it all goes wrong, what are you going to do?
No, he probably he's seen it a lot. And how long did it take you guys to? Because you didn't reform straight away. Instead, you guys went on to other projects.
About 20 years.
Yeah, 20 odd years, 25 years before we really spoke to each other as a group.
Why was that?
We're a bit cross. We're working through things.
Yeah, we got there in the end. It just took us, at our own pace.
That's definitely true. Now, Peter, you went on to do the Weather Prophets.
Yeah. With Dave.
Yeah. And then after that, you went on. I know you were in A Million Bounds, but the one I saw was the Rocking Birds.
Rocking Birds. I did Primal Scream. Sonic
Did you do Primal Scream as well?
With Mayo Thompson. Yeah. Did Spaceman 3. Because I had Alan McGee was my manager in '87. He's like, "Go and do this. Go and do that, Dave." I was like, brilliant.
Okay, so and then now, Andy, you also went on to do. I wrote this down.
I formed a band with a terrible name. They were called the Caretaker Race, and we did an album with Stephen Street.
That's right, yeah.
We all went off and did a band called the Wishing Stones. So we all went off and did other things and made other records.
There was a lot of talent in the band.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Really good. And so If it's not working together, we can go off and do individual stuff, and which we all did. It was great.
Yeah, well, you can tell that from the very first the songs.
Yeah,
It's like,
absolutely.
wow, what's going on here?
But we still have that now. When we play together, it's like brilliant. That magic is still there. Didn't we play the gig at Lexington? Brilliant. Yeah, really good.
I mean, Pete wrote all the Loft songs. All the Loft songs are Pete's songs.
Yeah.
But we used to work really hard working on them, didn't we? Rehearsing
totally.
and we added
Really
little bits here and there. But
I think often with a band as well, the best bands, and this is the film, actually the fact that the band, almost that kind of trouble is what makes a band good. The fact that Andy's like, what's so great about your bloody songs, Pete? What's so great about what you do?
Is that what I said?
No, you didn't say. You were saying that internally, but that made your guitar way better. That made Dave's drums way, because everybody's kind of actually, and all the best bands actually on some level have a bit of that, because that's what look at the Pixies. Do you know what I mean? They're all. Well, I don't know. I'm sure there's all that talent in the band, and there's all like one of them's trying to keep one person down, one's trying to keep. And actually, if you can hold it together, which we failed to do, it makes it a way better band, in my opinion. And I think you can go through all that with bands. So I think that was the kind of, that. I've used the word synergy twice now. What's the matter? So that kind of thing, that thing is like really important.
Yeah.
That makes really good bands.
You got to get along. That's just.
Yeah, but you kind of have to get along, but you also have to have that tension and that kind of spark.
Yeah, you do.
Strummer Jones, they weren't exactly best mates, were they?
Yeah.
Dammers, Paul,
Yeah,
That's where the good stuff comes from.
It comes from a bit of
Lennon McCartney.
Yeah, a bit of antagonism.
Comparing yourself to
I was watching this. Speaking of Lennon McCartney, this was not for the interview, just a bit of a laugh. But I was watching this Linda McCartney story. Really cheesy. Like made for TV.
Oh, I've seen that one. When she dies, it dies at the end, and they've all got bad wigs and stuff.
Yeah. Oh my God! Did you see the guy who played John Lennon? He looked like Ozzy Osbourne. It was just
like a cheap American thing.
It was really bad.
It's hilarious.
But one of the best lines is when Paul yells at Linda and goes, "John calls me a sentimental turd."
It is good.
That was actually.
I have to remember that phrase. Sentimental tale.
McCartney should have thought about that a bit more, shouldn't he? That's exactly right. Oh, right, Mulligan Tyre now.
That was just a bit to break the ice there of the story of bands and tension. That's a good one, sentimental turd. But what I would like to... Okay, let's go to the Weather Prophets, because that's another band that went... Interestingly enough, the Weather Prophets came about, this is what's been written, from the cult acclaim and the enigma of Loft. That's what some press doth saith.
Ish. I mean, the Loft split up, so it was like, let's move on and do another band. So that was a much less exciting version of it. Let's carry on making some music.
Stay
with McGee. Yeah, and it was, it worked. I mean, the Weather Prophets, I think we've made some really fantastic records with some really good stuff. Personally, I felt we made the classic 80s mistake of making a bunch of stuff, having a bunch of photos taken by, our initial photos were all taken by Blevin Butcher, our friend and our mate and a brilliant photographer, and then suddenly we do the album, we're like, we won't get Blevin to do it, we'll get someone else who costs loads more money who's not very good. And it's like, and the album was produced by Lenny Kaye. Now, Lenny Kaye is a fantastic guy and a brilliant producer, and he's Lenny Kaye, so it's just like, but it didn't work as well. I mean, I think he also, and that's to be looking at back on it, his job as 80s producer was to make the band sound nice, which meant taking all of the things that we were good at, i.e. vibes, i.e. feel, i.e. groove,
make it all
neat, and take all the life out of it. So we made an album which is very well varnished, with a really quite a poor photograph on the front. It says trying to be diplomatic, and it's our fault, totally our fault. I mean, completely. We chose it with an album that's kind of like just didn't lack. I mean, it's a good album, but it lacks the kind of, it's that classic 80s thing of taking all the life out of it. 4-piece rock and roll bands should be recorded in the studio as live as you can, because that's what they do. So suddenly we did that classic thing. So we made an album, and we tried to compete with Elton John, and we failed. Although we went in higher than Elton John the first week in the charts, I remember. Although I think Danny Kelley from might have a slight different opinion about that. We'll go into that later. We'll let him tell that story. But it's like Friends on the Inside. But Yeah, so we, you know, so
You went for a slicker upgrade when you should have kept it more raw.
we should have kept it more what we were. We were trying, you know, we were trying to be as big as we possibly could. I mean, Sonic Flower Groove, the first Primal's album, is exactly the same. It's just, you know, it's potentially a good album that
Mayo
lacks
was a
the-
good producer, though. Mayo Thompson, he was great, you know. But it is kind of, you're on Warner Brothers, and it's a bit sanitized. It's a bit sort of rounding the edges and
Because
making it sound nice. You want
Creation, sort of, you were in Creation, and then sort of went. That's
The
what you went.
Elevation.
You went
McGee was still the manager. We went via Elevation. I mean, you know, also
and then you went back to Creation.
Yeah, but also it's. I mean, it'd be very easy to paint Warner Brothers as the evil. You know, they were just a major record company trying to make shit tons of money, which is what they do, and that's fair. That's their job. I mean, Creation was a small record label trying to make loads of money and make loads of impactful records. I don't think Warner Brothers. I mean, Rob Dickens, who ran Warner Brothers then, was. I mean, I liked him. I think he was a really smart guy. You know,
It might be different now. You know what I mean? Like with the bigger
do you know
record
what? I
companies.
think a lot of people that like music, that make music on any level, they love music. I mean, their morals may be dodgy, but they like music most of the time. I think. Anyway, I'm just saying. It was. In terms of something like the Weather Promise, it was definitely our mistake. It was no one else's mistake.
Yeah,
That's
you
important.
chose. You wanted
we
to go
chose that, and
upgrade.
we fucked it up basically. And like a lot of bands, that we're not the first or the last to do that.
trust the experts. Don't trust the expert. You know what I mean? It's like
Trust yourself. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Trust yourself.
Well, I think it's reasonable to you've been doing it on your own, and you had a chance to do something different and try something different. It makes sense to me that
But it's
you might
very
want to.
alluring.
Yeah, it
that
is
sort of
very
world. You
alluring.
wanna go, yeah, we can do this. Wow, yeah, we need to do this and get this producer in. You know, but it's bollocks. You know.
I think it's a very understable thing
Of
to do.
course,
I
yeah,
would have tried
yeah.
it.
Of
You know,
course,
it makes sense to me. Okay, so the weather. Yeah, so there's a you were on Creation. Then I don't understand. Alan just put you on the other. Why did he put you onto?
Elevation was like a kind of an umbrella organisation within Warner Brothers.
Okay.
So it was the classic indie thing as well. So it looked a bit cooler. So we weren't suddenly on WEA.
Right.
We were on Elevation. You know, although I mean, it wasn't a big secret to the WEA on the label, but it was that thing of making it look a bit more boutiquey on a major label, so the indie kids wouldn't go, oh my goodness, they've signed to a major.
And it's really.
I think it does say, you know what I mean. But it's that thing. So it was that. But he was the man. It was a way to keep him as our manager, in essence. That was the thing, to keep him involved.
Yes,
you know,
it was.
to keep him as a buffer between us and the, you know. It's just what
There was something about that, you know, because they said something about. They said that you had a fixation with the Birds and Velvet Underground, so you're kind of going with that direction with the Weather Prophets.
That hasn't changed.
Fair enough, you know. And it said that there was a near hit with She Comes From Rain, which is really funny because why does the rain? I'm sorry, I say
Comes From Rain,
connection
yeah,
between
yeah.
the two
likes
chunks.
rain.
Yeah, I think you do like the rain,
So-
actually. And they were saying, you know, this could have been the Stone Roses. And that was what I read some press about.
They were
this.
big fans of ours. They even dressed like us for a while.
And
That
this is
sounds
87.
ridiculous, but it's true. It's true. But anyway, but that's mad. No, but yeah, I mean, it's just that kind of, you know, it's that Birdsy, Velvet Undergroundy song stuff. But you know, we weren't as
Warner Brothers
as
say,
cool
oh,
as
you're
them.
sort of
You know.
like simple minds. We see you as that sort of band. It's like, what?
Really?
Yeah, it's they want to mould us.
Although there's some early Simple Minds before they went commercial, that's amazing electronic stuff. Like very.
They were joining the Self Abusers as well, weren't they?
They were
They
what?
were a punk band as well. They're joining the Self Abusers.
Oh,
I mean, Rob
okay.
Dickens. I remember the big meeting with Rob Dickens. I mean, we were talking. We were talking about Word Up by Cameo. So I was like, "You Are Cool," because that's a brilliant record. And he talked about seeing the Byrds and James Brown in the same week at the Walthamstow Granada where he came from. And you know, in that classic musician way, I'm like, "Well, you're all right by me." Do you know what I mean? If those are the two bands you saw in a week, that's perfect. Do you know what I mean? So for me, his taste was pretty cool. Do you know
Pretty
what I mean?
cool, yeah.
You know, maybe he says something different to Simple Minds. Do you know what I mean? But that's fine. You know, that's his job. You know. You know.
Well, to be fair though, the early stuff was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
wow, that was you guys.
Yeah. Dollar. Maybe it's a different dollar.
I mean, it's interesting to talk about Velvet Underground because when we were students in London and when we were getting the loft together or the living room together first, that was the soundtrack of all the student parties you went to. It was basically Orange Juice, television, and the Velvet Underground. You know, that was kind of the stuff you listened to after the pub when you just got off to somebody's house, and everyone seemed to have the same tapes and a couple of albums. And Pete and I, when we were in New York a few weeks ago, we walked across the Williamsburg Bridge and tracked down the Velvet Underground house. and had our pictures taken outside. It's an art gallery now, isn't it? The ground floor.
Yeah,
But
it's
the
still
house-
quite a scuzzy area. We were saying, at least it's not full of art galleries. Oh, it is an art gallery.
Yeah, apart from that house.
But I mean, also that for me as well in musical terms, in the 80s, I remember sort of the late 70s, early 80s was also that thing that got, most of my friends were like Hornsey College of Art type people, so there was that kind of crossover with that kind of funk punk kind of a thing as well, all the post-punk stuff. So there was also that, it was like, in a way, the Loft stuff was like a returning home to, you know, I mean, like a really key record for me was Time by Richard Elvis. It was like a sort of it was a songy song, but that wasn't sort of lame and sort of wet. Because also, you know, my favourite music probably around that time was things like The Fall. But, you know, couldn't really do The Fall. Do you know what I mean? That's only Mark Smith can do The Fall. So do you know what I mean? So it's just a different thing. So yeah, so the Velvet Underground is just that, they're that thing, you know. People still like them. It's amazing. You know, just like, so. Yeah.
Just a quick, because you went on to do, I didn't know you were in Spaceman 3 and Primal Scream. What was your time with Spaceman 3 and Primal Scream, just out of curiosity?
Did the first album, Primal Scream, Sonic Fire Groove, and did tours with Sonic. No, it was Spaceman 3.
And what was that like with the, I mean, why didn't you stay with Primal Scream? Was it just like were you...
Because I was in the Weather Prophets, you know what I mean?
Right, so you were just kind of like,
They messed up their first take of the album, smashed the studio, Stephen Street, it just didn't work at all. Right, let's try it again. Mayo Thompson, and we'll get Dave in and just try and have a second drummer, boom, boom, boom.
So you were kind of brought in to like save that album.
To save the album, basically. You know.
Basically.
Which is good. I loved it. It was very Birds, seriously 12-string, you know, seriously 12. And Elevators, they used to like as well.
Yeah.
You know, they loved it, you know, with their bags painted with the cover, the album cover. It's like, we love the Elevators. They were a different band then.
Yeah, they were.
Seriously different band.
Yeah. Because they went in and they changed.
Yeah.
So what, Spaceman 3, what was were you drafted in as well? Like
Yeah,
in the
to
same...
do tours and stuff, you know, play with Jason and Sonic, you know. It was great, really loved it. It was a really good connection, you know.
You like the house drummer, really.
I was
weren't
the
you?
house, he was like, right, go and play this one.
Oh,
play
you
that one.
Yeah.
Right.
Go and play this one, you know.
So you get all these
Play
sort of
low.
young bands trying to make a record, and the producers people would be thinking, the drums are not quite great. Let's get Dave.
In, you know.
And yeah. So any thoughts about, because I mean, Jason and Sonic, that was quite a great fusion. Also,
Yeah, really
also
good,
got the kind of,
but still friction, you know, big time, because Sonic was like, his family got really rich. I went to stay with Sonic for a few weeks, and he lived in a mansion house. His dad collected Jaguars and like, whoa, you know, what the fuck is this, you know? And then go and see Jason, he's like in squat and like jumping Jaguars and taking drugs and that. But they out-drugged me. Like, I couldn't seriously do drugs, but they out-drugged me. Seriously. Oh, fuck me. This is too much.
I always got the impression that Sonic was very, very precise in what he wanted. He had a very distinct vision.
Yeah, but Jason had the other side. Do you know what I mean? It's two elements.
And how did they
together.
get? You know, did they clash because of? I was wondering if they clashed because Sonic had a very precise vision and maybe Jason was more freeform, or.
Well, I think
Do you know what
when
I'm
I was
saying?
playing with them, I think they pretty much split after that. It was like that was the end of it. And I did the
So
last
partnership?
tour stuff, and they went boom. He did Spiritualized, and boom, went off. You know, doing everything like. But great time. It was really good. So many drugs. God, so many. There's the one that keeps coming up. It's like, fucking drugs. Jesus Christ. Yeah.
Okay, well, I think because you guys are probably itching to go, even though it's been great talking to you guys.
No, it's been good fun.